I went live a little earlier if you're joining us on all the socials because the last couple times I've had a little bit of issue with everything going out at once. There were some issues when we had Doc on going to YouTube and stuff. So um, I think it's all working. But I wanted to give, before we get started, my friend Ian Anderson Gray is here filling in for Grace because he just didn't have anything else to do. And I forgot to change the link. So, and now he's getting delivery. So, and we have our friend here, Brian Farrell, saying, "Good evening, lovely people." Brian, thank you so much for tuning in today. Where are you coming from? Because I never know what part of the world. Are you back in Italy? Are you in the States? Where are you? Did you get another delivery, Ian? Because I mean, is this going to happen during the show a lot? I mean, I need to know right up on the top.
Let's not talk about it. I don't know what's going on.
All right.
It's some kind of weird thing.
Okay. So, by the way, if you're just joining us, we're going to be talking all about Descript today. We've got Keely here, who I'm so excited. I've been wanting to have her on for such a long time. But would you do us a favor and sprinkle the love across the interwebs? Let people know about this. If they're interested in Discord or know nothing about it, but they want to have some sort of way to build community better, would you share this with them? You know, even call them in down below in the comments, whatever you're watching on. Let them know about this. They can watch the replay because it is going to be a fabulous show. And also, make sure that you ask your questions because, like I always say, this is like, for me, it's a free hour of consulting. So that's what I'm going to do this week. Ian, how are you doing today, my friend? While I hit all the buttons.
I'm doing well. Yeah, I've had some camera problems, so like that's what that delivery was, and I'm hoping that this camera is going to stay okay, and it's not gonna stop, because what normally happens is it pauses just when I'm doing some weird facial expressions. So we'll see what happens.
So what camera did you get, by the way?
It's the Sony.
What happened? Did I lose my internet?
The camera's gone.
What happened?
The Sony. You can still hear me though. The Sony ZV-E10.
Okay.
Oh, there we go.
Am I back?
Oh, that's the same one I have. So
you didn't get another Canon. I thought you would.
No, I decided to go with the cool kids and go Sony. So,
all right,
so is this where you're going to check me off the show now?
Yeah, you're fine. I want to give a shout out to Martin watching over on LinkedIn. He says, "Good morning from Toronto." So very, very cool. I don't know what happened with my camera. That was very odd. So seems like everything's still going live. Yeah, here we go. It's going to be one of those days. So we've got Keely here. We've got Ian here. I think we're going to ready to start the show. So I'm going to go ahead and hit go on the podcast machine, and we'll get started. You guys ready?
Let's do it.
All right, here we go. Welcome to Social Media News Live. I'm Jeff C., and you're not. And this is the show where we give you all the up-to-date information that you can handle about social media. So I'm so excited. I've got my friend here from across the pond, Ian Anderson Gray. Ian, how are you doing today?
I'm doing really well. Yeah. So just if you're confused, I'm not Grace. I'm afraid I'm not as beautiful as Grace, but you're going to have to put up with me today. But maybe my British accent will do something to level up the show somehow. I don't know.
Yeah. And like I said in the pre-show, I'm so excited that Keely Dunn is here. We're talking all about Discord. It's going to be a fabulous show, so make sure you ask your questions. And if you don't know who Keely is, she is fabulous. I've been following her for a long time. She doesn't know that, but I've stalked a lot of people. But she is a multipreneur content creator, which I love. I love that term. I'm going to have to steal it. And as FH umpires, she educates field hockey umpires, players, coaches, and fans worldwide and supports umpires to perform at their best. Now, with Discord for Creators, she works with content creators building engaged and valuable communities on Discord. She is also the co-host of the Mastermind podcast that is the Creators Pod. And what I want to ask her about, because I saw this was interesting in her bio, she says she has an entire production setup. It's on a rolling rig named Rick because she's never going to give him up. So talk about that, Keely. What in the world is your rolling mobile rig named Rick?
Yeah, I've shown it off on a couple of live streams. You can go to Take One Tech. I was on with Alec and showed it off a little bit, JP High Tech some time ago. But I live in a pretty small apartment. It's only about 800 square feet. And I'm also a minimalist and I like things not to be in my way with visual clutter. So I roll this rig out. It's on a I think it's a Neewer pole
Mm-hmm.
that's got a really nice heavy base. I put weights. I've gaff taped weights onto the
Right.
legs because why not? MacGyver it. And I roll it out here into the main room. So this is, people are like, "Oh, your studio's cute," and I'm like, "Yeah, I live in it. This is my living room."
That's right.
So this is my living room. I've kicked out my partner for a couple hours, and then when I'm done, I just disconnect things, roll it back into the office, and that's where I do most of my my non-live streaming work. So my mentoring, coaching, that sort of thing. And it works for me. It's pretty crazy, and it took a long time to get it to where I liked it, but
Right.
there you go.
That's cool. So like for me, I have, I call it my cone of cleanliness because I'm out in my man cave and it's like, I got carving stuff over here. I've got like, just, it's a mess, but there's this cone of cleanliness that I have that keeps everything good. So Ian, what's your studio like? Like, I know, is that a real brick wall or is that a fake brick wall? I mean, I never know.
Do I have to answer that question?
You have to answer. It
is wallpaper.
Show. Yeah.
It is wallpaper. And there is like
great.
a fake tree behind me as well. So, but yeah, it's the same thing. Like if you look at my desk, I've got quite a big standing desk here. And first of all, when I first got it, it was looking beautiful, but not so much now. I think I like with my studio, I found that I just needed it to be here and set up so I don't have to worry about putting it up each time, because otherwise I probably wouldn't go live if I had to put it up. So I'm very impressed with Keely's setup. I think that is really cool that you can just put it up really quickly, because I think that's the key. You want to reduce any friction to creating content, I think.
Totally agree. And speaking about creating content, so well, first of all, Ian, so you have a standing desk. You said, do you stand during your live streams or do you sit? Are you standing right
most of the time I stand. Like I am standing now
Yeah.
because it just gives me a bit more energy. But that's the great thing about a standing desk. You can sit at it if you want.
Yeah.
If
Well,
it's
you need
adjustable.
that, but you don't need to stand because, like Martin says, a British accent is worth gold. So that's why we have him on the show,
Stands on
Martin.
its
No
own.
other reason. So, okay. So, kidding aside, we're talking today all about Discord. So, Keely, I want you to come at this because it's true. I am a total kind of newbie at this. I am in part of your some of your groups that you have created, but I'm just scratched the surface of what Discord is. And by the way, I do want to do a big shout out to our friends who help sponsor the show, Ecamm. You can find out more about them at socialmedianewslive.com/Ecamm. They are what makes the show possible. That's what I'm streaming on. The other cool thing is that Keely has actually helped them set up their very own Discord server. So if you want to see what that looks like, go to ecamm.tv/Discord. You can see all the magic that Keely has put together over there. So if you want to kind of dip your toes in Discord and see what it's like, this is a great place to start. ecamm.tv/Discord. So Keely, as we're just getting started, and like I said, I'm a total newbie. Explain to people what Discord is. Like if they've never heard about it before or they've heard it and they just thought, like me for a long time, that it was just Slack for gamers.
Right. Well, Jeff, I'm not here to throw shade or anything, but I think you've probably been around for a few minutes. You've been around the internet and you've seen bulletin boards and forums. And do you remember IRC back in the day?
I do.
So you can take all that and all those cozy, nostalgic feelings you're going to get when you see those environments, and then you can add it to Facebook groups and WhatsApp and Zoom without the suck and apps like that. And it's all of those things all together. And it's pretty much anything you want it to be. Their slogan is imagine a place. And I actually said that accidentally in one of my presentations. And I'm like, oh, I bought the totally drinking the Kool-Aid. But really, it's what you want it to be. And that flexibility can look a little intimidating for some people at the outset, but really it can grow very organically with you. And yeah, you can do anything with it for your community.
So just really quick, back to kind of the, what is Discord? And Ian, I know you have a question coming up that I want to break in real quick too, but it's a separate app. It doesn't live on any other thing. So do you own your own Discord channel or is it somebody else's? I mean, it's a different app, kind of, like I said, it's kind of like Slack, but it's not really. So can you kind of explain more, like where does it live and all that kind of stuff?
Well, it lives on the internet, but it is all of Discord is made up of what they call servers. They used to call them guilds until they thought, okay, that may be a little too nerdy. Let's expand our horizons a little bit. So went from guild to server. And now a lot of people just call them communities.
Okay.
Because server sounds overly technical for what it is. But think of, for example, your Facebook group on that platform is just a corner that you've set up that has your people in it, and you can do the things that you want to under the supervision of Mark Zuckerberg and all the advertising. Discord is like that, except without the Zuckerberg and without the advertising. So individual communities are hosted on Discord but connect through the entire database. Discord is just like this super powerful database of people and posts and emojis and servers that are all just individual pieces that all interlink together to a certain extent. But you can have a very private server there, or you can even have a public server that people can hop into at their will when they discover it.
Awesome. Ian, your turn.
That's really cool. So like, I think Discord has this, a lot of people see it as a kind of a gaming platform. And like my son's massively into gaming, into Minecraft and stuff. And he keeps on going on about Discord when it comes to that side of things and the YouTube creators. So is it just for that, or can businesses use it, and can we use it like for professional communication as well? How has that kind of progressed over time?
They've really changed in the last few years. I don't know if you heard about this thing that happened in about March 2020, but that caused a whole ripple of changes for a lot of online services like Discord. So according to Fast Company, back in 2021, about 30% of the users of Discord were on there for primarily non-gaming purposes. But in the following year, that had completely flipped to 80%. 80% of the people were there to use Discord, not for gaming primarily. But I've heard that people are these multifaceted, entities that contain multitudes. And so they might be gamers. They might get into gaming because they've found Discord and they've got kids that are playing and they're like, oh, this community aspect of gaming is fun. This is the thing that I like about gaming, is I can play with people. Or you might find photography groups. You might find content creator communities. You might find NFT and crypto communities and things like that. So really, the pandemic brought about an entire shift, I think, to Discord's model. They were worth a lot of money before the pandemic, but that just completely exploded them because they've been using a freemium model for a long time, and that's been very, very effective.
Awesome. So we got some comments I want to bring up. So Gary, it must be true because you're here. He says British accents give you more mojo. So I think that's, once again, Ian's got to fill in for a while now. Rich says, she gives a big shout out. He goes, hey gang, hey Keely. So you got your fan base here. And then Reg says, I use Discord as a to-do list, notepad, organizer, and as a community builder. So it's kind of like the jack of all trades there for Reg. The question I have, so, okay, let's say you've convinced me, Keely. I'm going to do this because...
That was quick.
Yeah, I've been following you for a while. I told you that. So the thing is, what's attractive to me about Discord right now is I think that social media has moved from where it was started to where it was, I want to know more. I want to connect with Ian. I want to connect with Keely because we're not in the same, space. But it's turning into more an entertainment network. And I'm really looking for stuff off platform that I could build a community with. And so Discord, and the thing that's going to win is where people have adopted the platform the most. And Discord already has like millions of users. So let's dive into like some of the key features. The first of which, like, how much does it cost me? If I said, okay, Keely, I'm ready to go, what does it cost me to set up a Discord server? Do I have to rent hosting space? Is it, locked down to so many users? How does that model work? You kind of mentioned freemium there for a while.
Yeah. This much.
Okay, great.
Cost you that much
I like
to
that.
start.
Yeah.
So, and for those of you who who can't surmise, I on the podcast, I put up a 0. It it is completely free to use. What the freemium or the premium features that you can incorporate into your experience, whether you're doing that as a user and you could subscribe to a service they call Nitro, which gives you the ability to upload posts to bigger upload limits, like 100 megabytes instead of just 10. It increases your ability to, it gives you 2 free server boosters, which if you're a server owner, server boosters are great because they open up some premium features for you in terms of being able to share screens in your voice channels at higher resolutions and bit rates up to 60 frames per second, which is pretty dope. Sound quality up to 356 kilobits per second, pretty dope. So there are options out there. And for me, I believe that if you are a business, if you are a content creator who is hosting a community on Discord, you want to have a boosted server to level 2 is probably where you want it to be, so that you can have cool custom emojis. And I know it sounds goofy, but these, I swear, custom emojis and GIFs, just, they make the experience fun. And that really is the thing that I think Discord does best in the entire space, more than all the other people like Circle and Heartbeat and Mighty Networks. They have their jam, but it ain't fun. And if you want to have fun, you can come over to Discord and experience all the goofiness and weirdness. And it just, I think that extends through to your community as well. And people really enjoy themselves there.
So it's really interesting. Reg says, I get Nitro just to use the custom emojis that I want to use, which is cool.
Exactly.
And Jim, see, I think Jim introduced me to you maybe the first time. He goes, hello, Discord Queen. Thanks, Jim, for that. And Eddie Garrison says, Keely Dunn, I like emojis too. So, I mean, it's a big deal for people to put this stuff, to have this. So how much is the cost to, like you said, if you're going to start one to kind of level up to level 2, what's the cost on that? Do you know?
I think you need, I'm just looking over at my server right now. I need 15 boosts for level 3. So I think for level 2, you need 7 boosts. So you need the they make it difficult to budget in that respect. But myself, I spend about 95 moose dollars on Discord a month, which incorporates all the server boosters that I have for my 2 servers that are boosted up to the hilt, and then a few other boosts that I give to my friends and their other communities, because I'm, kind of cool that way. And to me, that is an incredible piece of value for all the things that I can do here. But you don't have to do any of these things. You can have a beautiful, functional, fun, engaged server without any money whatsoever. And I think that is a compelling way to start.
Awesome. So Jim goes, Keely made me buy Nitro. So I guess it's pretty funny. Yeah, Jim just listens too. He's like me. He's like, I'll just do what she says. So real quick, Ian, before you go, and I want to Ian ask some questions before the show that I want to make sure that you have a chance to ask Ian, because I think a lot of people have the same thoughts. But before we move on, kind of the next section, Keely, like what are the key features of Discord? Like you mentioned, it's different from Circle and all that stuff. Well, why can't I just get Slack and do the same thing? And you also mentioned live, like the bit rate, and so you can stream live inside of Discord, just without any. That can be a destination. Is that what you're saying?
You can, absolutely, a destination. Okay. It's not it doesn't save and record in that destination. So people are often worried about that. So what I say to them is, well, that's what YouTube is for.
Right.
That's a place where you can deposit for replay the videos that you make and the live streams and the activities that you do. But Discord can absolutely be a destination. You can add virtual cameras to Discord the same way you can with Teams and Zoom and things like that. So you can use your eCam right into Discord, as well as using their own share screen functionality, which works way better than Zoom's does. You can share, multiple people can share their screens in Discord, as well as have their video up at the same time. But uh, like voice channels, I could go on for hours about, because you can customize your experience and change people's volumes and turn off their videos if you don't want to see that person who's got some distracting thing going on. If their British accent is overwhelming, you can mute them so you don't hear them,
Right.
whatever the case might be. And that's just one way. And that's where I think you can experience a lot of the creativity that as a community owner you can use. But they have their own equivalent of a Twitter Space or Clubhouse, which is called Stages. So you can do an audio only presentation and you can invite people up to the stage, and it's its own type of channel. It's got forum channels so that if you need to have a very organized space for Q&A where people can ask their individual questions, and all the answers and all the discussion that comes pursuant to that can all be in one little post. And that's super convenient for sure. It can be used primarily for texting, but I think you've got so much more with the voice capabilities and how you can hold events in there. And Discord just rolled out memberships natively so content creators can monetize their communities. But you were probably going to ask me about that, so
I was,
wait.
but I know Ian had some good thoughts too. Before, but before your question, I want to bring up another comment. Thanks, Reg, for all your comments and questions. He goes, if you have a fan base, they can donate a boost to your server if they're in your Discord community. So that's really, really cool as well. So
yeah,
go ahead, Ian. Go ahead, Keely. I'm sorry, you're going to say something.
I was just going to say that's okay, and it's nice to have your server boosted, but that money goes to Discord. I would much rather that my fans are sending their hard-earned money to me, and then I can pay for the boost myself, and that's what I recommend that professional server owners do. And then I can decide how to use that revenue and that sort of thing. So boosting is nice for a very like casual, we're actually all in this together. But if you're doing this professionally, I think you want to monetize your membership.
Interesting.
That is fascinating.
Yeah.
There's so many features that I want to ask you about, but one kind of concern that some people have, or like, or when they're talking about Discord, is social media has really changed, as we talked about, and it feels like Discord is a fragmentation of the community. So it would be that you go onto Facebook and you'd be able to connect with pretty much everyone on there. Now, if I want to connect with Jeff, I mean, I know Jeff's still on social media, but I would have to connect with him on his Discord. And if I want to connect with you, Keely, I'd have to connect with you on your server. What would you say about that, about the fragmentation side of things? And what would you say to people who have that as a concern to allow Discord to actually bring people together, not separate people?
That's a great question and a valid concern, because one of the weaknesses of Discord is actually the privacy that's built in. So instead of signing up for a Facebook account where you are handing over everything about yourself to the platform, who then monetize you out of out by farming you out to advertisers, Discord keeps that. They don't ask for any of that information. You have to verify, or you can verify your account with an email, and a lot of servers will require you to be verified that way. But that's all. Otherwise, Discord doesn't track any information. They don't sell it. So yes, it is harder to build the social network. And so what I say to that, and I think going back to what you said earlier, Jeff, about how Instagram and all those things have changed, they're now recommendation media rather than social media, that Discord isn't a replacement for Facebook. It's what I consider to be the top of the community pyramid. So if I'm building an experience for the people that I want to bring into my world and I want to build something awesome with, I start out with Discovery Media, which is now Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all those things, right? And then I do live streams on YouTube. So YouTube is discoverable, but when I do a live stream experience, it's pretty much like it's long. I talk to people, I get to know them. It's very much relationship building. And then from there I say, hey, we've been dating for a little while. Do you want to go steady? Yeah. Do you want to bring your toothbrush over? I have a Discord. And that's the place where we really, really get into this long-term relationship thing. And we then can go from me to many, including me.
Mhm.
And that to me is the power, and I think more than offsets the con of not being able to sort of connect directly with your people like that, the way that you would in Facebook and that sort of thing. So you just have to reorganize your model of how you're building your community, and then it completely makes sense. And it's an amazing experience, I think.
Yeah,
So
and that's great because that it's not a replacement for social media. It's in addition to, and so you can use social media as the discovery, in a sense, discovery engine, but then bring them into your community on Discord. And I think that's the way to see it. I've just seen some creators say social media is dead, Discord is the replacement, and that's not what you're saying.
Not at all. Not at all. That's just not going to serve you very well. Use the platforms for what they're doing, for what they're giving you. And what Facebook and Instagram are doing, actually, I mean, it's been terrible for your friendship relationships. You can't find your friends' photos on Instagram anymore. Thanks, Kylie Jenner. You're absolutely right. But you can find new people, and you can find new connections to people that are making content that you're interested in. But what do you do after that? You don't continue that relationship on Facebook or Instagram or even a WhatsApp. There's too much distraction in those places. When you're ready to settle down with somebody, you go into their Discord server, and that's where all the magic happens. I hope
So
that analogy isn't too creepy.
no. So I'm going to call a little bit of an audible here, and Ian, I'm sorry, because I do this to Grace all the time. But the what I'm thinking about, okay, if say I'm going to do this, and I've been really hesitant to do. I've done some pop-up Facebook groups before, done some training like that, but it's a lot of work. Like having a good, active, vibrant community is a lot of work. And also I didn't want to do a lot of work and have it go on to like a Facebook group. Then all of a sudden they start throwing ads in, and or else I don't own it, and all this other questions. So I guess so you talked about social media as kind of being the discovery engine, and they kind of go into the relationship, and they're on your, you move them to your Discord server, once they like, hey, I really like what Keely's got to say. I want to learn how to do this myself, or I want to get in deeper. So what's the next step? Can you make a monetized level inside like Keely's secret group or special group inside your original Discord, or do you have to create another Discord server, or how does that flow work? Like because I know a lot of businesses and a lot of coaches watch this and listen to this. So how do you move it to the next level where you're not just making a community for community's sake, but this is actually part of your business plan where you can actually make some money down the line?
Yeah. So there's a number of ways you can do this. And for years, Discord has been able to integrate with memberships that you may be hosting on, say, YouTube or Patreon or Buy Me a Coffee. There are ways that you can automatically assign roles to people inside the server. And then what you do is you make certain areas, channels, or entire categories where those channels are nested inside as private only to those roles. And that's where you host your special events. That's where you give more of your time, and you're very attentive to your members. Whatever the benefits are that you've decided, this is what I can provide to people, this is what they really want from me, then you do that within those private settings. And then for what I've done in my own FH Umpire server, I've set up another bot. One of the most popular bots out there is called Me6. And they have a membership, or they've had to change the name now to monetization. They've got a feature that you can then sell your own memberships through Me6. And that just integrates with Stripe, and boom, there's an auto payment, and you can do the same thing. And then 10 days ago, I don't know, COVID time, Discord launched their own native memberships. It's US based servers only. So if you are a resident of the United States and you set up your server there, you can use this feature. And obviously that's for taxation purposes. You know how complicated things get. And then you can cordon off areas of your server that's already existing, or you could switch your entire server to be gated, I guess, where people have to pay in order to see any of it. Or you could create an entire new server. I think that because of the versatility of servers and how you can architect them, you might as well keep it all in the same place. And what I've done in mine is I have general areas that everybody can come to that are totally free. And then I have some gated off areas, and I let people create all the FOMO they can. I'm like, yeah, talk about all the cool stuff that we're doing behind the gate, because that's where the real content, the real value, and the time that I invest in my people, that's where that happens. And it's very, very effective.
Very cool. Ian, I'll let you go. I'm sorry. I'm
yeah, that's
hogging all
cool.
the time.
Well, yeah. No, that's a really good question. And so you mentioned, you talked about the kind of the privacy side of things, or privacy, however you pronounce it. I get confused. So, and that, because they kind of lock that down, they don't ask you for a lot of information. That can be seen as a positive thing, obviously, as well. So how does Discord handle privacy and security for its users?
I think that part of it is just in that they don't ask for a lot of information anyway. So instead of them using all of the connections that you make with people as data fodder, that just isn't part of their collection model whatsoever. And I see in the comments, Reg actually mentioned that there are issues with nefarious things going on. Absolutely. I actually read an article just last night about how Discord's reported cases of abuse of younger people in their platform is only at about 7%, and it's much higher on Facebook and Instagram and things like that. The way that you handle privacy and security in Discord is to have a robust gate at the front of your Discord server. And that can be everything from asking people to not only agree to rules, but also they have to react to a particular emoji on a particular post before they can even open up the rest of the server to see everything, because that really helps with eliminating a lot of bots. There's bots that help you with installing CAPTCHAs and all those other tools that you can use in order to screen out the automated processes. And then there are auto moderation tools in Discord that you can set to be at particular levels of sensitivity. Like, oh, if I see these terms, automatically hide that message, notify me, and then I can go back and say, yes, that message is fine. Or auto delete it, send a DM to that user saying, please don't use that language. And points are docked against that person. So there's a lot of different layers that you can use. You can now have an onboarding system using other programs like Dots or Burb or many of these other vendors who are coming up with solutions that before you even enter the Discord, you're filling out more information. So if you're a commercial entity and you want to collect people's emails, because we all know that that is the holy grail, that's what everybody needs in order to truly monetize their community, you can ask for that information, have a little questionnaire to find out more about them, collect the demographic information that actually helps you in your business, and then you allow them into the Discord, and you can tie that information together thanks to those apps with their user profile. But that is outside of Discord. So Discord doesn't have that information to give out to anybody. And I think that's very positive.
All right. So now I've got more and more questions. So many questions. So little time. So you mentioned things like bots. I mean, Reg mentioned bots. He goes, this is good stuff. You mentioned servers and all this stuff. And I know people are like listening to this going, oh my gosh, this sounds so complex. Like, I can set up a Facebook group in 5 minutes. This seems like it's overwhelming. I know all the kids are doing it, but what, all the Gen Zers are doing it, but what about us old fogies here? Like, should I even try this? I mean, is it worth doing, or is it going to be, it sounds super powerful. Just like, I know a lot of people like open up Adobe Photoshop and they're like, oh my gosh, this is too overwhelming. There's too many tabs, all this stuff. Talk us down, Keely, like why we should, and I know you've done this in the past because I see you on Twitter and some other places going, it's okay. Because I really do think, one, just because you're not familiar with something, but you can see that, for me, it's the user base. There are a lot of people using Discord. As they get older, they're already familiar with it. They're going to move forward. So talk us down, us old folks, Keely. Why should we get on this Discord bandwagon? And tell us it's not as complex as it sounds.
Exactly. 150 million users, in fact, are on Discord. So that's a lot of people, and lots of servers. Where are my stacks here? I think there's 19 million active servers. So I can tell a story about how I got into Discord, because it was two very high level members in my community. They were moderators on my YouTube channel, and I respected their opinion very much. They came to me and they said, "You got to use Discord. You got to use Discord." And I looked at it and I thought, are you kidding me?
Right.
This thing looks ridiculous. It looks exactly like a gamer house. And I thought, there's no way. I don't mean to brag, but I'm super big in sort of the 50 to 70-year-old Englishman set who all are hockey umpires. And I thought, there's no way they are not going to want to come over to this place.
Right.
But they pestered me and they pestered me. And I got on a voice chat with one of them. He ends up being a 15-year-old kid in the Netherlands. Really, really smart, lovely kid. And he says, look, I'll set up your server for you and you can just take a look around and we'll do a demo. And that was the first time I saw that's where the real power is, when you can actually just get somebody in there and then show them what they can do. Everybody's faces light up. Like as soon as you get in a voice channel with somebody, they go, oh, you mean I could help somebody with their software just by having them share their screen and then we can look at it together? And I'm like, yeah. And it's that easy. And people just absolutely freak out. And so I told these young gentlemen in my community, I said, look, we'll set up the server. I'll invite some of my key people in, the people I'm in the big demographic with. And now if they like it, we'll do it. And brought a few of them over. I brought about 10 people and I said, just poke around, chat amongst yourselves, like no pressure, just like, let's see what it does. And within weeks, they were in love as well, because of the ease of the communication, the joy of being able to have not only the asynchronous texting, or being able to pop into a voice channel just like that. No links, no passwords. You just click on a button. Suddenly you're ready to video with somebody. That just won everybody over. And then you can always use the argument. Remember that time you learned Facebook?
Right. Yeah.
Remember that time you learned how to, use your dial-up connection? Do you remember learning MySpace? You don't remember those things. You think that it wasn't like you rolled out of the womb knowing how to use these things. But the skills are generalized. Right-clicking or alt-clicking in Mac, like all of those rules stay the same. And you'd be surprised at how quickly you'll acquire the skills. It's been fantastic. And I've loved the journey. I've loved learning.
So Ian, there is hope for us. So
yeah,
much hope.
I think it's as you get older, and I'm just talking about you here, Jeff, because obviously I'm still 21. But like for older people like you, I think it's easy to become more overwhelmed. Whereas like young kids, they almost like those obstacles because it's like problem solving. So I suppose like it just a follow-up question, Keely, which is like, well, if people are feeling overwhelmed, what should they do? They might want to set up their own server. What would be like a couple of points, simple points that they should like do to get started with this, to set up their own server?
I think the Discord server setup process is actually really nicely laid out. Just take your time and read the screens. When it asks you, do you want to set up a set of rules that people have to agree to before they get into the server? Say yes, do that thing. I think by making sure that you have just a very simple reaction role that somebody has to click on an emoji and that automatically gives them access to a role that then opens up the rest of the server, I think is very important. If you have your server and at everyone is the default role, at everyone can see everything, that's when you can run into trouble with bots coming in and spamming and that sort of thing. If you can take that one simple step, then you're set. And I mean, let's face it, there's a reason I'm here. And it's because I translate from Discord into creator language. And I'm here to help people get through that. There are videos on my YouTube channel where I go through creating your account, setting up your server for the first time. Very simple little steps. But I also really think that hands-on learning is the best way to learn any kind of software. And I'm there to help people go through the process and kind of hold their hands, but also have a lot of fun, you know, making jokes in the process and working through setting up a server. And once you've done it, you're like, oh, well, that was easy. I didn't need Keeley at all.
So for you guys who are listening on the podcast, you can get more information about Keeley. If you go to discord4creators.com, that gets you all her information. And I've seen her, helping all sorts of people. I mean, she's, like I said, she's helped Ecamm set up their Discord server. So if you want to see what that looks like, go to ecamm.tv/Discord. That's ecamm.tv/Discord. They are also the sponsor of the show. You can find out more about that at socialmedianewslive.com/ecamm. Thank you for for them, doing this and introducing us to people like Keeley. They've also, like, Doc Rock has used her. We've had Doc on a couple weeks ago, talking, and that's how I was like, I gotta get Keeley on. I gotta do it because he talked about her so much and how he's building his community using Discord. Mark Schaefer has a Discord channel. I mean, this is why I've really started to get on the Discord bandwagon, is because so many people that I really trust and have learned throughout many, many years from are starting to use it for their communities. And so that's what I want to talk about next, is like, I'm all about community. I really want to do a better job with it. I think that's the future, because, like I said, where I think social is going more towards entertainment, but I want to talk about, like, building a community with Discord. So we've teased a little bit, and you've talked a little bit about this thing that they just rolled out a couple weeks ago, which is this how they have their own subscription model. So how is that different than the Patreon model? And could you have different levels as well, like you do on Patreon? Because I know that's attractive for a lot of people. You can get people in at the $5, hey, I'm just supporting the show, and then you can kind of gradually let them in. Can you do the same thing with this new thing with Discord?
Yes, you can. You've got the option for 3 tiers, and so far, other tools like the ones that I'm using, like Meesix, because remember, I'm in Canada, so I don't get all the joy of the early releases to the Americans. You can set up the 3 tiers there, and you can do things like, yes, I'm a supporter of the show at $3.99 a month, and they get a special little icon, which again, or emoji, and people love that kind of stuff. And maybe they get one channel, a private channel that they get to talk in or have access to you, or whatever the case might be. And then you can build more intense levels after that. And that's what I've done in FH Umpires. So I have basically 3 levels of membership. One of them is just rolling out. I'm waiting for the Discord membership to come out to Canada, and then I'm going to just use that built-in feature. But that is just that's just a support level, very, very small. And then the next level is you get access to some resources that are on my website. So I control all that through WordPress. It's a long, complicated thing. I like to make things hard. And they also get invited occasionally to things that the highest level of members get access to, which are things like watch parties, where we sit and we watch a game together in a voice channel, and we talk about what's happening in the game. And so I'm educating field hockey umpires, and I'm saying things like, hey, did you see the position that umpire moved into? That's why they were able to make that call right there. And, oh, notice that call that didn't quite go the way that it should have. That's going to come back to bite them in about 3, 2, there it is. And so we go through in real time, and it's super, super powerful. We do our mentoring meetings in there. I do private debriefs where if an umpire has a match and they were in and they want some private coaching, we can do that. And it's so easy. And then you've got the private text channels where everybody talks amongst themselves, and they get to build stronger relationships with each other because they're building all these touch points. So I'm looking at one right now off on the side. I'm super focused on this right now, but I just had this off on the side, and people are like, oh, this is the match I'm umpiring this weekend. And somebody's like, oh, I'm going to come and watch. And that's magical. These are people that didn't know each other until they came into this server. And I love that journey for them. It is just so much fun.
Awesome. Ian, you're up. I got one I'm dying to say, but I'm gonna let you have a chance. Go ahead.
Well, I've got a quick question. It's not on the list, but it's just since we're talking about community, like what I see a lot of people doing, and I've done this myself, is I get excited about a new technology. It could be Discord, it could be something else. And oh yeah, that's where I want to build my community. And then I forget, well, like I should have been focusing on building my community first, should I? Or so like that's like my question to you. Like, should we be before we set up a Discord server, should we already have a community, a cohesive community, because they might be scattered across all the different socials before we set up a Discord server, or what should we do? What's your view on that?
So there should and can. And I think if you're the kind of person who might get discouraged if you open up a Discord server and it doesn't take off right away, and it takes 6 months, a year for any real sort of measurable build up and increase in activity engagement, and that flipping into actually leads getting taken up on monetization, then you want to prioritize building up your audience first. So on all the discovery platforms, I mean, I'd been doing FH umpires since 2006.
Mm-hmm.
It's been a long time. It's taken me a long time to figure out what people are looking for from me. What can I give to them? And because there's nobody else in my space, I don't have any role models of people that, you know, I can look up to and say, oh, so how did you monetize your community? It's never happened before. So what I felt made this server a success, the one that I'm pointing at on my third monitor, is that I had a strong network of audience on the discovery platforms. I had been live streaming already for probably a year and a half. And so I had somewhat of a community, but it's still, I think that's still more of an audience, because they don't, on YouTube, they can, you know, live chat and sort of interact with each other, but they don't really get to know each other until there's a place that they can go to where they could all just like jam in and come join you in a voice channel, and then they can talk amongst themselves. They can go into the off topic and squirrel out about whatever it is. The weather in England obviously is a big topic and off topic all the time. And so I think you need to start with what am I producing? What are the things that I'm giving out of value into the community? Build that audience, and then start bringing some of those people into your community. And you might start really small with maybe an advisors group, people who are like super keen on your material, who have things to offer back to you. Because that's the other thing about community, is people are giving back to you in the questions that they're asking, the information they're giving you, all that feedback, all that knowledge. It just blows my mind. So you can start with the notion that this is going to be small, and this is just going to be my favorite people. And you can just invite them and just say, look, I think you guys are smart umpires. Come in and talk to me, and let's just talk amongst ourselves a little bit, and you can be part of that. And then you start inviting everybody else in and build slowly. But if you establish the culture, whatever culture you want, but for me, it's around fun, it's around Schitt's Creek gifts, and it's around knowing your umpiring inside and out and being incredibly nerdy and passionate about it. With that culture, it blossoms very well and organically, and people start taking on leadership roles in that place, which makes it easier for you as the leader to not necessarily have to be the one driving all the content all the time.
Awesome. So
awesome.
I've got some once again, I'm going to follow up.
Do you have questions?
I have. It's so excited. I love this. This is why I love this show. I hope you guys realize how much I love this show. And by the way, let us know if you think we should start a Discord server for this show. I would be interested to see if people would like something like that, where they could dive in and talk about stuff, because as you can tell, I like to talk. The question I have is like, is there a certain, and Ian kind of touched on it, is there a certain number you need to have before you start a show? And then let's say you have 5,000 emails. Should you send a list to, you say, hey, I'm starting a server, and send it all to your list and try to get them in that way? Or, I mean, what are some like numbers of like, if you had this, I would do this, and if you had this many already, I would do this? I'm sure there's kind of some different things you would recommend.
Yeah, I was around the 5K mark on most of the social platforms, give or take, when I started my ill-fated Facebook group, which is what I replaced with my Discord server. And that was the place that I was trying to give my membership value. And I just couldn't get engagement. I couldn't get pickup. But I felt like at that point I had enough people who had given me feedback as to what I could do for them.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think it's about numbers. I think it's about whether you have had enough touch points with your people to understand what you can do for them. And if you're not sure, if you're like, I don't really know what they need from me, what kind of conversations can we have, what kind of services can I offer? If you're not at that point, you're probably not ready for a community, because you have to start a Discord server with a purpose. Otherwise, it's going to be a chore, and it's going to be an imposition on your community. But instead, you want it to be a place where they say, look at all the things I get by being here. I get to spend time with Keely. She'll answer all my questions. There are some awesome people who will support me and listen to everything that I'm complaining about when the players are mad at me. And I'm getting all this great information. If that's something that you feel strongly you can offer, it doesn't really matter about the number, but it matters about the maturation. So when I say I had to take all those years to figure out what I was going to monetize, that's because I hadn't gotten that vision in my head. I hadn't gotten enough feedback, and the community didn't know what they wanted from me because nobody's done this before. So it wasn't like they were saying, oh, if only we had another XYZ person, Keely could do that thing. That would be great for us. I taught them slowly, eventually, what I could do for them. And they were like, yeah, that thing. No, not that other thing. So that's how that works out, I think.
Gotcha. That's a great advice. There's a question from a Facebook user. I'm not sure why the name didn't come through, but I thought it was really good. And we kind of touched on it, but I'd really like, because I'm sure you get this question all the time. They were in Discord for a while, and then I haven't used it in a while. I was in some groups for a couple of years. It became a bit overwhelming for me. So I know Ian had the same thing. He talked about, like, it just seems sometimes like Discord is so overwhelming, especially if you're thinking about using it. What do you tell those people?
The first step is control your notifications. So if you haven't gone through a server and said, first of all, I only by default want to be notified when I am mentioned. So whether it's my name or my role that gets put in a post, if you haven't set that on that server, you got to do that right away. And then you can go through a server and you can mute channels. You can mute entire categories of things that you're not interested in, so that you aren't seeing these, glowing, you've got to go check this badge. You can turn that off for yourself so that the server becomes smaller in terms of scope for you. If you're a server owner, that's something that you want to provide to people. So when people come into my FH Empire server, I say, okay, here are the automatic roles that you're going to get applied depending on what level of membership you are. And then, hey, are you a coach? Are you a media person? They can click on a button and that will open up a different section just for them so that they can partake in conversations that are relevant to them. Are you somebody who's interested in Web3? I'm going to push FH Empires into Web3, and I want to gather the people around me who are interested in that as well so they can help me do that. And they click on a button and boom, they can open that up. So there's a mix of you taking responsibility as a user and turning off the parts of a server that you don't want to see. And then as a good, responsible, fun server owner, that you give them people the ability to turn things off for themselves and just literally vanish areas that they are not interested in.
Very cool. That's worth the price of admission right there, folks. So
that's a great tip. And like suppressing the at everyone and on all those kind of things. I mean, I've just got a follow-up question on that, because I'm probably one of those people that finds it a little bit overwhelming. I've done the notifications thing, which is a great tip, but it's the feeds, particularly if you're in a really vibrant community and you go in and you think, oh my goodness, where do I start? I only logged in and checked it an hour ago, and now there's like 50 more messages. And it seems like when people respond to a previous message, it will show you the little message and then what they're responding to. So it feels very different to to Slack with the way you can the replies will appear just underneath further up, if you know what I mean. Is there any way to change the way that looks, or if not, how would you suggest that if we are finding it overwhelming to as a consumer in a server, how do we go about kind of doing that on a daily basis?
Yeah, I'll break that into two parts. And honestly, this question of overwhelm is something that I'm dealing with now because I've been doing this for a while. I'm absolutely voracious in my desire for knowledge about these things. So I've joined, I think I'm up to about 75 servers right now, which is ridiculous. Also, I'm getting into Web3, so there's a whole bunch of stuff. I mean, it's nuts. And I've felt that same sort of holy crap. One of the best ways to control your experience when you come in, you've heard of declaring inbox bankruptcy, right? Where you're like, oh, I have 1,000 emails in this inbox. I'm just going to grab them all. I'm going to shove them into the archive of Gmail, or I'm just going to delete them. I'm declaring bankruptcy. If it's that important, you're going to email me again. And you delete everything. You can come into a server, and the first thing that you do when you see it, and maybe there's just all these channels and things that have unread messages, you right click on the server, you select mark all as read, and you declare message bankruptcy. And then you get a fresh start. So I do that all the time. I have joined a bunch of technical Discord servers that are hosted by bots, and I need to be able to go into them very quickly if I have a problem with a bot, but I don't need to see everybody else's question. So I just have them all in one folder called development bots, and I right click on the folder, select mark all as read, boom, it's gone. And it's liberating. It's so powerful to be able to do that. So that's what you can do from a user perspective. And then Ian, your question about how replies are organized, that's one of the features that is very strong with forum channels. So if you establish a channel as a forum, it then has things organized like we used to on the bulletin boards, where there was an original post, and then all the replies went under that thing. So as a server owner, that's something that you want to think about, especially for those topics where there tend to be a cluster of very valuable replies and follow-ups and explorations. But you want to contain that in order to keep that valuable. And so if you set up your Q&A, for example, as a forum, which is something that I've done on all of my servers, that makes it so much easier to keep everything together. And then when that topic is done, after it's been inactive for a certain number of, it could be 24 hours, it could be up to 7 days, depending on the level of your server, it'll just hide. You can still find it when you search, but it's not sitting out there. So you don't have 70 forum original posts to think about. They're just gone.
So it sounds like there's different types of posts that you can make on Discord. So you said there's a forum and there's kind of the other ones too. So it almost sounds like Reddit a little bit, like you'd have a topic and then replies. Very, very cool. All right. Yeah. Well, we are getting at the end of our time, and I still have a whole nother show's worth of questions. But the one question I want to not end on a wet blanket thing, because I want to come back to some other stuff. But what I know people are worried, like, listen, I invested in Facebook groups, and I see that they're not valuable as much as they used to be. I'm scared that if I spend all this time, especially with all the cool stuff I can do with Discord, what if it goes away or gets bought by somebody else, or that shuts down, or it's bought by China and then the US kicks everybody out, or whatever happens, what is there a way to offboard people? Like, hey, like you mentioned email addresses, is there a way like, hey, we're moving, we're going over here now, because I know that we all need an out now, because we've seen what happens to a lot of these platforms. Is there an out in Discord if we want to not let our, flush our whole community down the toilet and have to move somewhere else?
So when we were talking about collecting the email addresses before, I think that's your strongest strategy. Okay. And that's something that you have to take upon yourself. And excuse me, for example, Alec Johnson, I help him with his Take One Tech server. And what he did is he had about, 40, 50 people in there. And when he realized, I know that some of these people, I have their email addresses of, but some of them I don't, he just asked. He just said, hey, do you mind just like clicking on this link and filling out a form that connects your username to your email address? Like, is that cool? And everybody did it. Right. Because they're already just like neck deep in We Love Allocanus. You know, they're like, we're cool with that. We know that you're not going to abuse it. We know that we're going to get value from this experience. So yeah, we'll do that. So if you just sort of shift that mindset, okay, people who are coming here to my community aren't just kicking tires. They can kick tires on Facebook. They can date us a little while on YouTube live streams. You know, that's how they're getting to know us. By the time that they're coming into your server, they should be people who are really invested in you and invested in what they can get from you in this community space. So you always want to collect email addresses. And when it comes to Discord going away, well, everything goes away. I know everybody's saying, oh, like 5 years ago, we were like, Facebook's forever. It's never going anywhere. And like, how wrong are we? Because it's dying in front of our eyes. Twitter is dying in front of our eyes. So you're always going to be thinking about being flexible and plastic. And, you know, Ian, when you talk about us all aging, because we all are aging, the story we tell ourselves is that this is hard to learn. If we revise that story and say, we have a vast bank of experience of things that we've learned, proof positive, we can learn more things. Let's just learn another thing. How cool is that? And we will make our connections faster because we have those experiences. So shift that mindset a little bit. And I think you're going to be set up well to take advantage of what Discord has. And then in 10 years' time, you'll be ready for the next thing.
That is a great and healthy way to look at things. Ian, I'll let you have the last question because I could keep going. So,
wow. Well, I mean, I think I
so
can't
you're going to
think
set
of
up
any
Discord
more.
now, aren't you? That's
Yeah. I mean, I was converted before, but I think what you said before about communities and setting up your community and having knowing what your purpose is, before you go into the technology, which we can all get excited about, it's sorting those bits out. Those are the difficult bits. It's that deep work. And I think you're so right there. So, but yeah, join Keely's Discord server and follow her. And you got all these YouTube videos. So that's where I think people should start. Don't you think, Keely?
Yep, absolutely. You just got to start. That's how Niels and Martine from the Netherlands got me. Is they just got me in there. They got me to sign up for an account and they showed me what it could do. And I just went, let's go. This looks fun. And just the ideas and the creativity that it'll inspire. That's the fun part. That's why we love tech, is because when we learn something new, it just creates all these other points and connections, and we start thinking of new ways we can serve our communities. So this is just one way to take advantage of it, but it's a super cool way.
And podcast listeners are missing out on the pure joy on Keely's face. That's right. So you'll have to come back and watch.
And I didn't mention this, but I think one thing is connecting with podcasts. You know, there's always been a breakdown with building community with podcasts, and I think Discord is a great way to do that. If you have a podcast, creating one of those. So anyway, that's a whole nother show, but I want to give a shout out to Reg, who's been making some great comments. He says to take advantage of those connections. And also he says, I expect a Discord, Ian. So you're going to have to get on top of that after the show.
That's me, Tom.
I think this is a promise. Yeah, I think you guaranteed it.
I agree.
What's happening?
So Keely, before we wrap things up, I want to have a chance to tell everybody where to find you, those people listening on the podcast, all that. So what's the best place to find Keely Dunn and your YouTube channel, all that stuff?
Yeah, head over to discordforcreators.com. All the links to the usual places are there. My YouTube is there with some long streams where I go step by step through the features, for example, and how to set up your account and things like that. So it's a great place to go if you're just starting. And then joining my server is a great place to come because I am so ready to answer any question that you have in there. We can hop in a voice channel. I can show off some things that maybe you haven't seen or don't know how to do, and that'll inspire you when you're looking at building your own communities. So that's discordforcreators.com/DS, standing for Discord server.
Very cool. Thanks, everybody, so much. Thanks for Keely for a great show. We got to do this again because, like I said, there's a whole nother show of questions I have. I want to give a big shout out to Jim and Gary and Reg, everybody who showed up today, asked some great questions. Thank you to Ian. Ian, where can people find out about all things Ian Anderson Gray if they want to get on your Discord server?
Well, not yet, because I don't have one yet. But I have carelessly scattered myself across the interwebs and the socials. Just search for my name, Ian Anderson Gray. And of course, my blog is at iag.me, and my podcast is at iag.me/podcast. So do follow me there, and I'd love to connect with you.
Awesome. And I appreciate Ian coming on at a late notice to be my amazing co-host and ask some great questions. I want to do a big shout out to my wife, who probably is not watching, but I want to do it anyway. This is our anniversary today, 27 years of marriage. I love you, babe. Thank you for letting me do crazy stuff like this show, but 27 years is pretty cool. So I want to give a shout out to that. And with that, I want to also give a shout out. It's not as important, but it's important, is to our friends over at Ecamm. You can find out more about them at socialmedianewslive.com/Ecamm. And make sure you go check out the server that Keely put together at ecamm.tv/Discord. Check it out. Join that. It's an amazing community. I'm telling you, the people over at Ecamm, they know how to do community. It's a great example to look at. Make sure to go follow them over there. And with that, we'll see you guys next week. Bye, everybody.